You are listening to the City Podcast. Unadulterated, non-politically correct, unfiltered, real talk. The City from the inside out. With your hosts, Chad Cranston and Steve Mealing.
Welcome to the City Podcast. My name is Steve Mealing.
And my name is Chad Cranston. Chad G. Cranston, that is.
Of course, always. For goof. Anyways.
For gangster.
That's a broad sense of the word.
Gangster.
Our guest this week is as following. Chad?
We have Stu Stone.
Hello.
And we have his sister.
His beautiful sister.
Karie Stone.
Yes.
So there's a 6 degrees, a 1 degree of separation going on here with Adam Rodness and Harv Glazer. We've been talking for many, many years. Studios right beside ours at one point back in the early 2000s, I guess. 2004, 5, 6, 7. Back then when I had T-Chad Quarterly, T-Chad Magazine at the time. And we've been keeping in contact and watching what he's doing. So I saw Adam last week at the gym. And I've been following him.
What gym? Just for people that
at Good Life, like
you guys are at
8
Good Life?
o'clock in the morning was so randomly.
I think it's Brad's fault that he's back. My husband's fault that Adam is now back in the gym. I think he might have called him fat.
Is that leg
Or
day?
serious?
Are you guys doing leg day there? Or
He wasn't doing leg
Chad's
day. I was doing
leg
leg day.
day.
I was doing leg
Trust
day.
me.
Adam seems like he's a chest day type of
He was
guy.
doing a lot of
Sure.
chest.
Chest day.
A lot of chest.
He's got pecs, man.
Yeah, he was doing a lot of that. I do my legs. What are you talking about? My legs are gorgeous, man. You should see them.
Pull it out.
If I was doing runway, buddy, and heels,
I could bet you look great in
I
stockings.
would look
Let's
amazing.
stick to the topic.
So we got a movie, and when I watched the trailer for Jack of All Trades, I was kind of blown away because I didn't know where it was going. Because Adam told me that it's about cards, it's about
Yeah, he was like, it's
baseball
cards.
cards, and I'm like, okay, it's quite nerdy. But then there's actually a story behind it that's going on. But before we get into the movie, we gotta find out what you guys are all about, where you come from, and what your background is, and that kind of stuff. Just lead into it and let us know what's going on here.
Kind of like what we were saying earlier.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Carrie and I are brother and sister.
Yes.
This is actually the first time we've ever done an interview together, ever.
It's not an interview, but we'll
But
go with
we
that.
A conversation on
There you
a,
go.
on a
No,
microphone.
But
we don't
have
talk.
worked together.
We've worked together, but we've never done like a sit down with you guys before. Okay.
Yeah, we've
First
never
time
done
for any
it.
type of media
No,
related.
Yes.
not together, but we have worked together.
So
Oh, that's crazy.
we grew up in Thornhill.
Beautiful place, by the way.
Beautiful place. We went to Thornley High School. We're Jewish.
Yeah.
Obviously, we went to Thornley and we're from Thornhill. Our father owned baseball card shops growing up. The store was called Sluggers, and it was in the Toys R Us Plaza in Thornhill. It was a pretty famous place for people that collected cards back in the day. And by 1990, there was 11 locations of the store, so they were all over the city.
That's pretty crazy, actually, for something like that.
Yeah, it was wild. And so we grew up. Carrie and I were real close. We're close in age. We were buddies growing up. And this was before the internet, and you guys can relate. We're roughly the same age. But the last of the great childhoods that you could have before you're like plugged into a wall, basically.
It's kind of that, where you're actually communicating with people. Do you actually remember when you're in high school where you had to sit around the house and wait for the phone to ring to find out where the party was at?
Yeah, of course.
When the one guy, it seems like there was always the one guy that got the information, like the one person who was the sphere of influence, and he had his 10 friends, and he'd get on the phone and call 10 more friends and tell them, okay, it's at 86 Sword and So Street. And then everybody would end up there. Now it's one tweet and 7 million people know however big the following
Right.
is.
Or just a Facebook.
Facebook is everything now. But, back then we'd play outside until the sun came down. And even then you didn't want to go inside. And you could tell, kids, the mothers would yell, and you'd know which mother it was based on, the yell. Who has to
Our
go
mother
home.
could yell.
Yeah, and you actually went outside, right?
Oh, yeah.
We are outside all
That's
day.
the crazy thing that you hear about nowadays.
We played, Carrie, I'll let her speak for herself, but I would say that she was kind of like one of the guys growing up too at one point,
Sure.
before
Were you a
she,
full tomboy?
I would say she was.
I was a full tomboy, but I always liked to dress nicely, and I was a dancer. But other than that, when I was around my brother and the guys, and Harv was one of the guys on the street, I was skateboarding with them. I was playing hockey with them. I was trading baseball cards with them.
So you were jazzercising 1 minute.
Exactly.
Calisthenics. She would play baseball with us.
Oh, I
We had
played.
This kid's backyard, we was real serious
Hockey.
about
What's the
it.
difference in age between you two?
2 years.
Oh, that's normal then. So you guys were like best friends growing up then?
Yeah, I used to kill him.
Until you came to high school.
Well,
high school's when we became really close.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So did you try to
We were still really close.
Well,
when
it
we were
helped.
kids, but...
Karie was very popular. So it was really helped me to go to high school, and she was already there for 2 years. Yeah. So right away I had like street cred because she was already had a lot of friends.
Thornhill street cred.
Yeah. So I could just I was like, okay.
You rolled in and you already had the list.
I already gave your
sister, I want to meet this girl, and this girl.
Yeah, well, I was like really short in high school also. I was like so short. So I didn't have to worry necessarily like people were going to like fuck with me, so to speak. Yeah. Because Karie would like...
My guy friends would
She had me, but she had my back.
No, but the crazy
it's like an 80s movie.
Yeah,
that's what we should actually do. But he was actually, by the time he got to high school, he was quite famous already, like front cover of the TV Guide. We got into acting, but he got really famous, like in the newspaper and magazines.
How old were you then when that happened?
I first got into the business when I was 2 years old, and it's because of Karie. Because I can tell you like a very Cliff's Notes version of it, or Cole's Notes, because we're in Canada here.
Yes, for sure. Well documented.
Thank you. So Karie used to be an actor when she was a kid, and she was in TV commercials and movies, and she was doing a shoot for like a Sears catalog or something like that. Yeah. She was working with a baby that a baby girl that wouldn't stop crying, and she was like, "I have a brother. He's in the car. He's got long hair." Because I was like
5.
So you started off
and then they brought me in. They put me in a baby girl's outfit and
mauve sunsuit.
Mauve sunsuit.
Not a dress, a sunsuit.
I would love to see this picture.
And from then on, it just took off. Like literally, I was like,
right off.
I was booked like crazy after that.
As a girl?
No. Well,
there's nothing wrong with that.
I would.
No, of course.
I was ahead of my time.
You're totally fluid before you knew.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, so it started really taking off, and I started doing like. I would like miss like 100 days of school every year. It was like always working. And this was in the 80s when there was probably like
minimal laws for children actors.
There wasn't even laws yet, but I'm even saying like the competition even where there was only like 10 kids in the whole city to pick from. So if they wanted a specific look, like that's paid, I was the guy with like the olive skin. I could play the Italian kid, the Puerto Rican kid.
Oh, that's true.
Israeli
and then they had a blonde kid. There was like, so we would never really compete with each other. We were all friends. there's 10 of us that were like the kid actors. So I worked a ton, and I got
started a union.
No, there is a union. I was working not as much as him, but I still was working. But he would just like be book, and I would like do something, and then I was like, I don't want to miss school. I want to be with my friends. I got to make high school ready for him.
Yeah, true enough. You got to lay it out.
Someone has to be there, right? No, he really took off.
So by the time I got to Thornley in high school, like I already had pretty crazy body of work for like a kid. I was in like recognizable things that people knew. Yeah. Like certain people only called me Chucky. That was my name. I did My Pet Monster, the cartoon Chucky. Okay. And so people would call me Chucky, like that didn't know me. You know what I mean? It was like that. But so I mean, I've been doing this my whole life as far as like this industry goes. And I worked in Toronto. That's where I got my start, obviously. I was a little kid. And then eventually I moved to LA about 20 years ago. And I've been there for about 20 years. But now I've been back in Toronto because I'm directing now. And we'll get to that, I guess. Yeah. But I wouldn't have been able to move to LA and get a green card and get work and be in movies there and TV shows there if it wasn't for Toronto, because there was really a scene here. And now there is again. But there was really a scene in the 80s when it was amazing.
Well, there was a few guys that actually from Toronto, actors, or actresses included, that did really well for themselves, came as a product of the 80s. Was I'm trying to remember.
Corey Haim?
Corey Haim did.
So you worked with Corey Feldman on your first movie in LA?
Oh, Corey Feldman, that's who I meant.
Yeah.
No, Corey Haim. Corey Haim is from Thornhill.
Yeah. Is he from Thornhill?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sutherland was from Toronto, was he not? Yeah, yes, he was.
He's from Carp,
No, I was talking about Kiefer, because that was the 80s, right? When Kiefer came out.
Steph Curry from Toronto.
There you go.
Spent some time.
Did you go to Thornhill too?
No, but we
our team actually won the championship because Steph was on the team.
Shooting threes.
Lots of talent came out of
lots of talent. Keanu Reeves. Who else was there?
From Thornley.
Hayden Christensen.
Yes,
he's from Thornhill too.
Yeah.
From your school. From your school.
That's your boy, right?
Yeah. Moxie Fruvis, they went to our high school.
I remember Moxie
Fruvis.
The band Head.
Yeah.
With Brendan Canning and the boys.
I love those guys. Yeah. I used to go to all their concerts. Like I was obsessed with like Canadian rock music.
Yeah, I remember
that.
Great. Remember when the Bare Naked Ladies put their tape out as well?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Then they played like Mel Aspen Square. It was like
they got banned.
Yeah, I remember all that.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy. But let's get away from that. Let's get back to you. So we can get ourselves back on track here. So you're acting like, blew up. You got to remember, not everybody's well aware of what your past is. And there's some pretty big movies that you've been in.
Rhyme them off.
I can give you like a couple. Cartoon-wise, I was in the voice on the Magic School Bus cartoons.
Yeah.
I was Ralphie.
Ralphie.
Chucky on My Pet Monster. I was in Babar the Elephant, Care Bears.
Oh, yeah.
Old shows.
Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, Beetlejuice.
The Jim Henson one.
Dog City, it was called, yeah. A lot of
voice acting stuff.
The little green sprout. A lot of voice acting. And then on-camera stuff, the most famous credit, it would be this movie called Donnie Darko.
Yeah,
which
classic.
People like.
Well, do you not?
I like it a lot, but some people think it's weird and don't understand it.
It's a cult.
It's like
That's their issue.
It's like you either love it or you don't love it.
Well, people are still talking about maybe there's a different meaning to the whole thing anyways.
Yeah, I mean,
just got to go to YouTube and surf that.
That's a whole other conversation. But
we won't go that
hell
far.
of a movie to be in. But after you do that movie, it's like, what else do you need to do? You're like in a movie that everybody loves. And so you're like, oh, cool.
And had a crazy cast.
Yeah, it was incredible. But, after I got a taste of like
Hollywood.
The creative side behind the camera, I really fell in love with that aspect of it. So I still do like performing, but I like filmmaking and directing and music, and I like all the bits and pieces that go into making a movie.
It's a process, right?
Yeah, and
it's
I love that.
It's a celebrated process as well. But I do have one quick question.
Sure.
Which I was surprised that you didn't rhyme off. You're from Toronto.
Yeah.
You're a child actor.
Are you going to say Degrassi? Is that what
I was going to say how.
So I can tell you, I wanted to be on Degrassi.
I'm actually really surprised that never.
Well, I'll tell you why. It was a non-union show.
Oh,
and I was union, so I couldn't do it.
Really?
All those
basically, he would have cost too much.
Right,
well, they didn't.
Drake was non-union.
Yeah.
All those kids were non-union.
Not anymore.
Now he owns the union.
Yeah.
By the way, living in LA, seeing all these Toronto boys blow up, it's been real cool. There's like a whole new, like the way that Seattle, everyone was like, oh, the Seattle sound in the 90s. Now in LA, everyone's like Toronto, because of Drake and Bieber and The Weeknd. And
it's a lot of producers, right? They brought a lot of producers up with them. And that's a pretty cool thing with Drake is he's actually got behind that, put some money in that.
I love Drake. And I love Toronto.
I just like that they represent Toronto so hard, where you see like other Canadians go and they make it and they kind of drop the Canada part. Drake still swings real hard for Toronto specifically. Bieber's always, love him or hate him, he's always wearing Toronto Maple Leafs, and he's representing the city.
If you hate him, you're just jealous of him.
I think so. I think I love just Justin Bieber as well.
From a woman's perspective, how proud are you from the Canadian boys out there?
I'm just proud of Canada and Toronto specifically. I mean, I also spent time living in LA, and I've traveled to many US cities and other places. And I just said this on the ride here. I just love this city. I think we are so lucky to live here. And it's the coolest city. It's getting cooler by the decade.
The weather is very cool.
The weather's the problem. I agree with him. But
you're telling me, man.
I think in the old days when we were kids, it wasn't as cool. And now it's like, I want to be like, no, I live in Toronto. Like I have
it's become in vogue to be from Toronto. And it has a lot to do with all these pop culture, like Drake's and all these, that helps.
Yeah.
And the Blue Jays being good again helps. And the Raptors being good.
TFC,
Raptors being good.
I don't know about the Blue Jays.
I'm a big fan.
It came in waves.
Yeah. But that, like Batista bat flip, that was like, I was one of the most proud moment ever. I was like watching it in LA.
Did you do it at home? Did you pick your bat up?
Dude, I
got in the picture.
I loved it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I have a framed picture of it hanging in my place in LA. That's how much. And when he left town, I was like so sad the way that people. I can't believe it's like such a "what have you done for me lately" type of atmosphere in this city, where a guy who was like the fucking hero of all heroes within a year and a half, they're like, fuck him.
It comes with the money, right?
Yeah, it's true.
It's just how it goes.
I would pay him whatever he wants just because of that home run.
I don't agree with you.
So, did you settle in well in LA? Like, LA's got a pretty cool scene going on right now, fashion-wise, right?
Yeah.
They didn't, because I worked in fashion back when Stuart got me down to LA, and I worked in fashion. And Toronto was actually ahead of LA back then. Now because a lot of the styles were coming from Europe, and we got them first.
Street culture.
Exactly, which is huge. And like the denim is all done out there, where the denim was done in Europe.
It's crazy, yeah. Different looms even.
I would say that the scene in LA is different than Toronto, but there is a laid backness about the people that is very Canadian.
Canadian-esque.
There's a familiarity with the way that people are there. It's like there's a very like everything's fine. It's like everything's cool.
So did your Canadian celebrity shine down there? Were you rolling down in LA with your brother.
When you first got there, it was pretty crazy.
Well,
that must have been a pretty crazy dose. I would look forward to hearing this.
Well, I mean, I feel like my roommate at the time was this kid named Devin Sawa, who was like the biggest fucking teen star there was in that era. And he was on the cover of every teen magazine. And like I snuck into some of those magazines too. But when we moved to LA, the two of us we got a place together and we lived at this place called the Oakwoods, which is where like every child actor, when you first get to LA, like that's where you move if you don't know anything. And it was just like instantly we were just like a hit with the young Hollywood community, you know, just making friends with like all of those people you would have seen on TV and in the movies back then. They were all our friends. Wu-Tang Clan was our next door neighbor. It was like an insane experience. Living in LA was awesome. I love it. And I had a lot of ups career-wise for sure. I did an MTV show with the comedian Jamie Kennedy, if you're familiar with Malibu's Most Wanted and Scream. So we had a show on MTV called Blowing Up, and it was where it was like a Curb Your Enthusiasm kind of show about two guys trying to become rappers.
Super neurotic.
Crazy people were on that
show. Every
yes.
rapper I got to meet. It was so awesome.
And like everybody.
So that show was really cool, and we had a really cool run, and Harv worked with us on Kicking It Old School. I'm sure you know that movie. You know, it was a really great time, and that was probably like the biggest taste of like the good life that you could have is like when you have a show on the air on MTV that people are watching and digging, and it's like life is a little easier for sure. But you know, you also when you meet and hang out with all these really super famous people, which I had been around, there's like a certain part of their life that you kind of like don't want. You know, they can't do regular things. Like if they want to go to the store, they can't. Like there's no place where like The Rock is not The Rock. If The Rock is tired, he's The Rock. Like, it doesn't matter because he's the fucking Rock. He can't hide. He can't put on a hat and glasses. He's always The Rock.
It'd be hard to. That guy's massive.
Because of the internet, though, when I first moved out there to be with Stuart, it was pre-internet, or the internet was just starting. So there still was a little bit of freedom.
Early 90s,
Yeah, you still had like a shitload of famous people at your house, and like the paparazzi weren't outside.
No, of course not.
Today, if those same people were there, we wouldn't be able to leave our house.
No.
We had the police at our house, but not the paparazzi.
Delivering.
But yeah, I mean, listen, it was really crazy. I think like everything happens for a reason. And somehow I was just like, I've found such a happy place right now creatively, directing and scoring the movies and doing the music. And I'm just really loving that aspect. And in this movie, Jack of All Trades, I'm in front of the camera in this movie as well.
I saw that.
So it's not,
with a shaved head as well.
Yeah, I got a shaved head hiding under this hat.
So would you say, before we go further with that, would you say the word gratitude has entered your life?
Gratitude? Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean...
Is it because of age or because of perspective? Or?
No, I think I've always kind of had my head on kind of straight.
I'm not saying it wasn't on straight, just like realizing, you know what I mean, being able to soak in.
On that straight.
And taking it all in, living at the moment.
Enjoying the moment, for sure. And when you don't, and then when you don't have like a million moments, you try, it's more meaningful when you do have moments.
And I had caught in a blur.
It went by in a blur.
That's what I mean, when it's a blur like that.
We were going to award shows. It was like a real run. You know, I had a record deal at Warner Brothers. I had access to like anybody we wanted to work with, going to all the best studios, an MTV show. We had an office at MTV. It was just like a wild time to be.
So it prepared you well enough for where you're at now.
Well, definitely. I mean, an opportunity came up here in Toronto. My brother-in-law, Adam, who we mentioned earlier, who does chest day at the gym with you. He's a hustler. When I was doing my MTV show, he was out in LA kind of working with us, kind of sniffing around, seeing what the business was all about. And I think when he came back to Toronto, he just hit the ground running because he kind of saw the hustle that was going on there. And so he started kind of cooking up his own kind of business over here, and he started working with Harv and all this other stuff. Yeah. But eventually we got offered this deal with a company called Breakthrough Entertainment, which is a Canadian distributor. They were looking for people to direct and write and produce like these horror movies. And
no way.
So I didn't.
So is this a content age where people are just looking for
That's content? All they wanted. So
digital age.
And I think that due to the experience that I gained from being in the States, you know, and I'm working on the MTV show, I produced Chris Angel's TV show, a lot of cool credits.
Which one?
The one on Spike TV. It was it's called Believe. Now it's a stage show.
Yeah. He was living in Vegas for a
while. I was living in Vegas. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole story.
That'd be a motherfucker.
So I think like that experience, though, it was easier to come back to Toronto and kind of swim in the pool here because there's not a lot of guys that have that kind of experience that are willing to come and work here in Toronto, and the pay is obviously way less to be here, but creatively it's an incredible opportunity. So I jumped on it, and we've done, Adam and I, we have a company called 5'7" Films that we started because we're both 5'7". And
he is not 5'7".
You're not that tall.
I'm 5'7". They're should be called 5'6".
5'7" films.
5'5" films.
And so we've done a few movies with Breakthrough. We did one called The Haunted House on Kirby Road, which is on Super Channel now. Another horror movie that's coming out called Scarecrows. And these are kind of like stoner horrors where like you can kind of make popcorn and just like laugh and just scream. They're not like super dark.
So you guys writing and directing?
Writing, directing, producing. It's like you got to wear 100 hats when you're doing these kind of things. But I found it to be really rewarding because this is something an opportunity that I had to take. So
different beast.
Yeah. So the opportunity to do this documentary kind of spawned out of all of this, that Adam and Harv had done a documentary on the Rubik's Cube called 20 Moves that I did the music. I worked on the music for that film, but it was a really good documentary. And what ends up happening is they got offered an opportunity to do another documentary. So Adam had called me asking like, hey, you got any ideas? And, I bounced off some ideas off of my sister, and we,
Is this the one that you came up with, or sorry, is this one, who came up with the idea?
I would say
Stuart was probably, but we came up with like the content of it together.
And it was like a collaborative kind of aha
he's the
moment
genius.
of
Yes.
No, well, I mean, the idea was initially like, hey, what about baseball cards? There's a whole thing that had to have happened because we had the card stores and we can get access to the companies if we need it. It's a lot of people collected. You don't hear much about cards anymore. Maybe we'll do that. So we kind of pitched that as an idea, and it got a green light, and it was really the craziest experience of my life. And I take away Chris Angel and Jamie Kennedy and all the crazy stuff.
That's kind of what I was asking, trying to delve into that.
This was crazier than any of that. This was like a 3 or 4 year process to make this movie, and also when you're making a documentary, you don't have a script, you don't have a roadmap. When I'm shooting a horror movie, I know exactly what every scene is. I know what comes next. I know what comes next. When you're shooting a documentary, you're just shooting because real life is happening and unfolding.
So the editing's the magic.
The editing is the magic, but it's also like, what do you keep? What don't you keep? And then I had a co-director, Harv, so it's like we're butting heads sometimes, like what to keep, what not to keep. But every great documentary that I've seen, and I think there is a resurgence in documentaries. I'm sure all of you can agree because
Netflix.
Yeah, Netflix brought documentaries back. Mm-hmm. So, and I watch a ton of them. And the best ones always have a crazy left turn that was not part of what the original plan was. Those are always the best ones.
It's probably because it's more honest too, right?
Yeah.
I think you can script as much as you want.
I think for Stuart also with this movie, and he just wanted everything to also be real. Like he didn't want acting. Mm-hmm. And you can, when you watch the movie, you can see that. Like it really, in my opinion, and especially his opinion, because he would be harder on it. It's like it's fucking real.
Well, it's a lot of emotions that are going on because obviously family oriented. You guys live this.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a family thing to it, and Karie and I obviously went through stuff together. We have a younger sister named Dina. She was like 5 years younger than us, so she probably didn't go through what we went through. But around 19, the baseball card thing was going great.
It was awesome.
And then by around 1990, 91, my dad sold the business and mysteriously got out of the business. And it just ended. Our baseball cards were just over. And then at some point...
Did you take the brunt of that as the older sister, or?
Him leaving?
Yeah. It affects the family, right?
Well, having said that, so he left. He took off. And he literally, at one point, he disappeared. We didn't know where he was. We didn't know how to get a hold of him. Nothing. So I lived in LA. So for 20 years, I barely knew anything about what the hell happened to him.
Yeah.
And how old were you at the time?
And of course
how old were you guys?
13, 14.
Yeah.
Okay. 13, 14 is when he first left.
She was 16.
I was 15,
16.
Yeah.
So she was already
well into it.
Yeah.
Just after bar and bat mitzvahs.
A week after my bar mitzvah.
A week after his bar mitzvah. That's why the bar mitzvah is such a part of this. And we never watched that video.
Really?
People don't even know about that. That's not evident by the trailer. But when we were going, let me just give you a really quick scope of what the film is.
Yeah. So only tell what you want to tell.
Oh, I will. I really want people to come watch the movie. And depending on when you're listening to this, on April 5th and 7th in Toronto at the Review Cinema, we're going to be screening the film in Toronto. Hope you guys can make it.
Yes.
And then on May 15th, it'll start airing on Super Channel, which is free now. So if you don't think you have it, you get it.
You have no choice.
Yeah.
No, it's true. I don't even have cable.
$17.99 for this.
So anyway, so the original concept for the film was, when my grandfather passed away, in his basement, they found all these boxes that I had put away when my parents split up. We had to move into a smaller house, a whole other life, and I had too much shit. So a lot of it ended up in my grandfather's basement. So when he passed away and they were cleaning out his house, they found all these boxes with my name on it. And I kind of had an idea, I remembered that I had the sickest collection of shit because my dad was in the business. My mentality was I was a collector too. I saved everything. So it's
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Did you say, because my brother collected football cards.
Yeah.
What was the name of the company that came in the metallic packs? What they probably did at one point.
The Upper Deck.
Upper Deck.
No, they were puffy card.
Oh yeah, Action Packed.
Yes,
that was probably the first.
Those were cool.
That was the Herschel Walker one.
That was a good one.
That was the big one.
I like that Herschel Walker.
And then there was one card that was all gold, I think.
Yeah, that was the special choice.
Okay, I'm gonna bring those to you when I see you next. I have some in my basement.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah,
my brother collected those. It was crazy.
We had like Stuart was saying, we had the craziest collection. The
Did you get into collecting?
She was a big collector. What do you mean? She was the only girl. She would manipulate all the boys and she would make all the big trades.
I want that card.
She had all the Mattingly cards.
Did you ever play the card games where you throw it against the wall?
Yes, but we knew
scramble like gambling, right?
When we were in the business, then we knew not to do that because that would ruin them. We have to keep them in mint condition. So we were both huge sports fans.
She had a binder filled with cards. She would go trade with the boys and rip them all off.
That's how you got all the boys around, eh?
No, I don't. It's not true.
I'm joking.
But I know I did work in the store, and I think I loved it because I got to meet guys all day long too. But I was a genuine collector. The difference between Stuart and I was when baseball card when it ended. Yeah. I sold mine and bought a car.
Oh, good for you.
Stuart's you're crazy for selling them.
Stuart's looking at me pissed.
No, now I got this movie.
No, he's like, I can't believe it. You can't believe it. You
more than the car, probably.
You're
I can imagine.
So crazy.
She got a Suzuki sidekick.
I was going to ask, did you get one of those Celica?
Suzuki sidekick.
No, I had to get a Jeep. It was kind of cool.
But it was cool. It had a body glove tire cover on it.
Yeah, it was remember those Suzuki sidekicks that kept tipping over?
It was
people
that was hers. She had it in black convertible.
Did yours tip over as well?
It almost did.
Everyone drove it. Yeah, everyone. I would pull into high school and leave the keys, and whoever had off second period, I'd let them drive it. It was really fun. So he thought I was crazy for selling them, but I still knew, even now doing this movie and doing the research, it's comes back in a second. You could put any card in front of me, and I'll know what it is. And
plus, if you hadn't sold it, then it wouldn't have been, the story wouldn't have come out like how it did.
No, of course. Life happens. Like I just said, everything kind of just falls into place somehow. But back to today.
Yeah, you were mad at me for selling them.
So we found it. These boxes existed, and I knew, like I said, that I had to have good shit in there because I know that I saved everything. So I was like, listen, let's get some cameras. We'll film me opening these boxes. And when I open them, they're going to be a fortune. We'll go sell them. And it'll be a story of hey, this is what it is.
Let's get matching Porsches.
So when we were actually making those jokes, let's get Porsches, because I really thought holy shit, I for sure have a fortune worth of cards. So we open it up, blah, blah, blah. The cards are there.
So you went right to the internet.
So I went, no, I didn't go to the internet because that's not good for a movie. I had to go to a card store. I had to go to a card show to go and try to sell it. So I stayed off the internet because I wanted to really...
Oh, so you intentionally did that?
No, you wanted it to be real. Everything had to be real with him.
So we went to go sell it and found out that it wasn't worth anything. And so that changed the whole scope of the movie because I was always told and Karie was always told and we were always raised the cards is a great business. You put them away, someday they'll be worth something. Well, 25, 30 years later, they're worth less than they were when we bought them. How did that happen?
Less.
So
that's why you're offering to bring some down.
So that's the first, that's kind of the first kind of twist in the movie that you'll see is I thought that's interesting enough on its own to be a movie. And I wanted to Michael Moore of the baseball card world and find out what the fuck happened. Yeah. How can that be? Yeah. What went wrong? Was everybody lying?
We couldn't believe it.
How could it not be worth anything? And so
it's crazy because this is your life growing up.
And it's just all a lie.
And it literally is the nest egg. You're just
was it a lie? Was it a lie or is the fact that things just change in time?
That's the story.
Well, I mean, I think you can make comparisons to any collectible. There's a lot of parallels that you can make from watching this film.
Shoes, Nike shoes and stuff.
Well, I think those are always going to be good. But what about the certain ones, like Jordan 1s, Jordan 5s, those are always going to be, people are going to always want them. But I'm talking about like Beanie Babies and fucking even Bitcoin today. Like there's these bubbles, of hype that are based on something that's not actually, you know what I mean? It's like my dad says one of his famous quotes about baseball cards is, you can take money to the bank. You can't take cards to the bank.
This is true.
So cash is still king at the end of the day. No matter, a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card, which is arguably the greatest card of all time, at one point, you could use it like currency. It was worth $100 or $200. I could give it to you. Give me $200, or I could trade you for a painting or whatever. You could
a sack of weed,
sure, or a Rolex watch.
Yeah, no, we used to.
There would have been sacks back then.
Sacks. We used to. We still were collecting, but we also were always buying and selling. At
that's
that
how
age.
you can afford to buy.
Right.
No, but we used to take like a little corner in our dad's table if he was at a show or in the shop.
We would sell cards.
Or
we had a garage sale at our house.
A garage store we had.
His inventory, this is not in the movie, so exclusive. His inventory for the store before he got so big and moved into like a huge warehouse was our house. So our garage
was lived in it.
Floor to ceiling, the garage was packed with cards. So when he would go to work at the store during the day, we would open the garage door, pull out a case,
he
and we would sell it.
Big trouble for that. Him and Harv.
Get caught.
And Harv was my next lived across the street from me, so he was in on it too. And we were so we would sell them. We would be selling packs of cards for like way cheaper than they were at my dad's store.
So you're undercutting your dad.
Our dad, yes.
You guys were free trade before free trade really killed everything.
No, but we would travel with them all over the States too, and we would run around these shows. Like there would always be like a really cool sample they'd give out, and by the end of the show, those samples of whatever card it was would be worth $100 by the end of the show because people wanted to take them back to their towns. So
for sure.
It was so much hype. So anyway, that was what I was like, okay, this is a movie. Let's just find out what happened to the cards. That's good. This could be like an ESPN 30 for 30 baseball cards. I'd watch that.
I love those.
Like I would watch that. I think it's cool. I think enough people collected, and even if they didn't, there's like some kind of sports thing to it.
Nostalgia.
And so Harv kind of had a different idea for what the film should be. And he really, really was obsessed with the fact that like my father and I have been estranged since the 90s. And as much as I could go ask Tops and Upper Deck and all these companies what happened, like maybe my dad would be the one that would actually tell me what really happened. Because maybe
was it abrupt?
Well, no, he was a pioneer. That's the thing you didn't mention.
He was so big in the business, and all of a sudden he got out. Maybe he knew something.
Yeah.
Why did he get out?
He saw it coming.
So Harv kind of pushed me in that direction, and it wasn't something that I was necessarily comfortable with at the time. But the movie really takes a left turn, as it does. If you watch the trailer, you kind of see there's like two different movies going on. Mm-hmm. And so, that was a really big thing. It was a very difficult thing to do in real life. It was a very difficult thing to do on camera, knowing that friends and family would see this, that strangers would see this, and letting go for the sake of, I don't want to say art, because that's just like such a fucking bullshit thing to say for me to say, but I'm glad you did. But it's for I think that this is, a lot of people probably went through what we went through. We're not the only ones whose dad took off. It's like that happens, unfortunately, to just a generational thing that probably started with our generation, because our parents, they never got divorced. It was like our parents' generation that got divorced, and that taught us. And now
hey man, my dad's got 3 under his belt. He's a pro.
Same with us.
So I feel like for people who went through what we went through, or specifically what I went through, maybe this would be something that would help them, because they can live vicariously through what I'm gonna do, what they might not have the opportunity to do, which is go and kind of maybe confront and find out what the fuck happened. So I'm not going to tell you whether I do end up finding him or I don't end up finding him, or I know if you watch the trailer, there's this ominous door knock thing that happens in the trailer. That is a crazy, what is on the other side of that door for sure changed everything about my life after that. So I can tell you that much.
I wasn't there that day.
I kept her away because I was afraid she would kill him if she saw him.
Yeah, I was really nervous for him.
He's a good brother.
But I don't know, if you ended up seeing him.
Well, she does know because she's seen the movie, but I've instructed her not to say anything because, if he's not there, that's also crazy.
I have a crazy idea in my head right now, but I'm not going to say it because the mic's around.
Well, you can speculate after. But so yes, this is a movie that guys will like to watch because it'll give them the nostalgia. Anyone who collected Ken Griffey Jr. rookies in Toronto, John Olerud rookies in
Jose
Sean Oliver,
Canseco.
yes.
And
Jose
Canseco and
who
Juan
happens
Guzman.
to
He's in the movie.
be in the movie.
Yeah.
He was
Canseco's
like
in
our
the movie.
favorite player. His card was worth a fortune. I had a couple of them.
You know, so
Did you get him to autograph it when you saw him?
I did,
Yes.
yeah.
Good for you guys.
And I also loved him.
Yeah, he's a pretty handsome dude as well.
Yeah.
He's a consummate stick man, is what they're
Yes.
There could be a resurgence for baseball cards now, and I'm realizing that. And so there was like a stunt that gets pulled in the movie that I'm not going to tell you, but I did something really crazy with my collection of cards. And let's just say this: when we went about 6 months later, we needed to shoot a credit sequence, and I needed to find some cards. And I thought it would be so easy to get them, and it was like not that easy as I thought it was.
So the value went down, but the scarcity's still there.
No, there's not really scarcity. It's just like there's just not a baseball card shop anymore.
Oh,
So
Also,
it's like you have to
only
like.
one company makes
So it's true
baseball
because
cards.
there's the internet, right?
So if I need a pack of 1987 Topps tomorrow, I'm good luck because it's going to take 3 days or a week. I can get it off eBay or Amazon, but I can't just drive to a baseball card store and walk in and they're going to have 87 Topps
They
packs there.
sell hockey cards and a little bit of baseball cards, but it doesn't.
Well,
it's not-
no, new product they have,
Yeah.
but not the old stuff. But everybody's got the old stuff. It's sitting in their garage, in their basement, in their grandparents' basement.
Yeah.
I got some.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Everybody has it. Nobody threw it away. So that's this. There's no scarcity.
I got a Daryl Strawberry.
That's a good one.
I love. Did you watch the 40 before?
Yeah, I did,
30,
of course.
whatever,
Yeah,
30
that guy's
video.
in
Doc and Daryl.
Oh, that was amazing.
great.
I love cocaine.
But-
anyways,
Cool.
But I will say this, that the business initially, the boom of baseball cards happens because our fathers looked for their old shit. Most of them, parents threw them away. Some of them found Mickey Mantle rookie cards that were worth money.
Yep.
So that transcended down to like, well, if Mickey Mantle's worth money, then Don Mattingly and Daryl Strawberry, they're really good. They're going to be worth money.
Yep.
But that's not why Mickey Mantle's worth money. It's because
It's Mickey Mantle.
It's also Mickey
No,
Mantle,
the
but also
scarcity.
everyone threw them in the garbage.
There was only, say, maybe like 10,000 cards made
Right.
back then.
Right. So now there's millions and everybody's
Half of them
saving
were
them.
destroyed, too.
So nowadays, now we're people who are in their 30s and 40s who are becoming professionals who are going to have offices in man caves, want to get a Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card.
A lot of man caves.
Sure. So now they're looking for their Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card again. Maybe they go to the baseball card shop or looking for cards, and they have kids now, and their son wants an Austin Matthews card. Now there's a whole new.
But you know what the problem is?
Spark.
Do you know what the problem is?
What?
There's no baseball card shops anymore.
There's like 3.
And they're
In North America?
Like
No.
the one on King
There's one in
Street just
There's one in Mississauga that
Isn't
I
that
know
the
of.
big collectibles right on the corner?
Yeah, it's Legends
Yeah.
of the Game.
Yeah, there it
supposed to
is.
be,
That's done.
I-
Yeah, there's one. There's
I wanted
none.
that
There's
to-
none in. There's none in Toronto that I know of. There's one like video game store that sells some baseball cards, but an actual baseball card store. There's one in
I
Mississauga.
was gonna say maybe Hamilton.
Yeah, maybe. But you can go. But they have card shows at like these like bingo hall type places and armories. They have like card shows.
Yes.
And there's a big show that happens every year near the airport.
But it's
So-
more hockey
It's
based.
more hockey because we're
Yeah.
in Canada.
So are you guys gonna jump in on this?
I actually
He wants
want
to.
to. I'm.
Well, at least go set up a booth promoting your movie there.
Well, I don't know.
Not, you know what I mean.
Here's the issue.
You
I'm
understand.
kind of waiting to see
Are you gonna
what.
make cards for yourself for your promo for the movie?
I think we're, it's already happening.
Your
Are you
marketing,
foiling
your
Stamping?
Steve's marketing mind's starting to
Yeah.
kick in.
Karie Stone rookie
He's
card.
looking for
Want my rookie
20%.
card? I'll autograph it for you.
But the crazy thing is that
316.
Amazing.
I'm kind of waiting to see what the reaction will be. I think that the people who are not in the card industry are going to love this movie. And I'm not sure what the reaction is going to be.
I
from
think
people
even
who are
someone
in
who
the
wasn't
industry.
even into cards whatsoever. The
Sure,
story looks
but I'm
pretty
saying like
awesome.
the industry, as far as like those trade shows that you're speaking of, I don't know whether they're going to want me there.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to have to
All right,
see how they
okay.
feel about
There's
the movie.
definitely
All right.
controversy involved
All
in the
right.
film.
I hope
And that
they
makes
do.
a
I
good
find
movie.
that hard to believe with the smile on your face.
I hope they do because I love the hobby still, and I haven't lost my love for it. There's a romanticism that exists with me specifically. I was a young boy back when cards were huge, and me and my friends traded, and blah 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 blah. So I still love it.
I do too,
And Karie has 2 sons, and I try to push cards on them, and I know Karie does too. And so
Well, in a fun way.
Instead of put down your Game Boy,
Well, that's the
you're
part
like, put
I
down
hate
your
it.
phone.
I wish they
Yeah.
played Game Boy. It's like these crazy games they play.
they're always on the Fortnite,
Yeah,
shooting
that's
up
the big
people.
one.
And they're,
I hate it.
I hate it. We
It's a
both
fun
hate
game
it.
though.
I don't hate the game. I just
It's
hate that the kids are just like, that's all they want to do is play Fortnite.
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
pretty
hey, let's go
I
outside.
had some time with them where they were into the cards.
Yeah, they're still into it. I think it
I can
helps.
still open up packs though and Like
And
their
flip through
friends,
them?
yeah, like their friends will come over. I have, a few boxes of some old stuff, and we open up packs, and they're like, "Karie, can you look at this and tell me who's good?" And I still have the knowledge of the time. Exactly.
I also think, though, it was a perfect storm in Toronto specifically for collectibles because the Toronto Blue Jays from around 85 to 93, that was when they started their rise to the World Series. Yeah. And baseball was huge. And there was a huge crop of superstars like Bo Jackson and Jose Canseco that transcended sports. They were pop culture icons.
Especially.
Michael Jordan, all of them. There's all these athletes that became the A-list stars. So that helped, that helped the hype.
So
and
what's the one thing that came with every pack?
Gum.
So when you guys were opening, how many packs would you open in a day working at that shop?
Oh, a lot. Millions. We have fillings.
We all have cavities.
We all have cavities. What's the biggest pile of gum that you ever saw? Did you guys put them in piles or you just keep shoving them in your mouth?
No, we would shove them in your mouth.
In our mouth.
Because that was just pure sugar dust.
Oh, we were disgusting.
Also, one of our dad's earlier locations for his card shop was at Bathurst and Eglinton, which was a few stores over from a store called The Wiz. I don't know if you guys remember The Wiz, but it was like this crazy candy store that was on Eglinton that had like the best candy selection, like gum cigarettes and like.
I remember those.
You know what I'm saying?
Popeyes. You blow the smoke.
Liquor
wrapper.
So cool. I used to fake
Twig Pixie sticks.
Yeah.
Like every fucking sugar thing you can imagine.
Gumballs were really good too.
Oh yeah, the snowball ones.
Yeah. Terrible now.
Candy was a big part. Plus, all the baseball card companies back then, up until when Upper Deck entered the scene, all the baseball card companies that came before Upper Deck were all candy companies. Mm-hmm. So when you're ordering cards from those companies, you're also getting candy. So our card shop would always have like double bubble gum and Big League Chew and chocolate bars, like whatever the fuck they were selling to go along with
the cards. How did you guys not grow up being fat?
Genetics.
Yeah?
I swear.
Your mom's tall.
She's not tall, but she was always.
She's 5 foot nothing.
I'm looking at her. That's why. Sorry.
No, she was always a very petite woman.
And well put together.
Just,
I guess so.
Natural.
I mean, I can look.
No, I meant like clothing wise.
She didn't really care. Our dad cared more about that stuff.
Oh, really?
But she is natural. Yes, she is a natural beauty though, for sure.
Yeah. Well, you're lucky that way because if I sat in a candy shop all of my teenage years and ate gum and candy, I would probably be about 400 pounds right now.
Well, our dad was pushing like 285 at one point.
Well, that would explain it.
Yeah.
We have our mom's genes.
But you learn a lot as a kid, just not only in a business environment. I mean, you guys probably know kids that worked in their parents' shops, whatever business that is, a flower shop, a post office, whatever their father owned, a convenience store. Yeah. But the business that our parents were in happened to be like the booming business.
The coolest
So it's
business.
like you'd go in on a Saturday, there'd be like 300 people in this little store. It was like
That's
chaos. It wasn't like we were brought to work because we were tagging along. Like they needed us in there.
We wanted to be there too.
Slave labor.
There's so many people in there.
You can Google something. Someone just sent this to me last week. You can Google like cultural icons, Thornhill, and Sluggers is one of the things.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, the one at Bathurst and Eglinton was called something else, but Sluggers was the place to be.
And it was in a Toys R Us plaza, so it was not connected to a Toys R Us and an ice cream
So you're
shop.
guilty by association right away. Your parents were like, I could take this guy here, like if they had more than one kid, boom, you're in there.
We were begging to go. I wanted to go.
So the Toys R Us,
and he paid us.
You guys remember this, but that Toys R Us, for its grand opening for that Toys R Us in Thornhill, I'm really digging deep if you have people that listen to your show that are big Toronto old schoolers. But Mr. T did a autograph meet and greet at that Toys R Us for its opening. And it was like in the height
in the 80s?
Yeah. Oh my God.
He was Mr. T, Mr. T.
He was Mr. T.
This is like in 1980.
He was Mr. Fucking T. He was the doll.
Yeah,
we loved it.
Mr. T, Rocky 3, Mr. T, WrestleMania, Mr. T.
Yeah.
Remember DC Cab?
Hulk Hogan, Mr. T. He was at that Toys R Us. And it was like every kid, it was like the Beatles were around.
For sure.
Mr. T coming to Thornhill. Yeah. It was like the Beatles going on the Ed Sullivan Show. So the card store initially was the benefactor of being next to a Toys R Us, which was just opening at the time also. And they were doing a lot of promotions like that.
Yeah, so people were just going.
Like I remember Big Bird came to the store once. It was like, they did a lot of like promotions at the store, so it helped bring people to the plaza.
Mr. Dress Up stopped by.
Mr. Dress Up, Casey and Finnegan.
Casey and Finnegan.
I
love that sweater, Casey, by the way.
So we learned a lot about business too, and like the hustle. it was real. Believe me.
We were,
Like 11, we already
making
knew.
Well, it sounds like you
$700
guys.
sales
I was
in the
gonna say
store.
you guys sound like you had your hustle down pat, setting up your own little side options.
Oh yeah.
Raiding the old garage.
Yeah.
We
Definitely.
we had a gang.
Yeah, for sure.
We totally had a gang.
So anyway, the movie kind of like encompasses that era of our lives as well as now. So it's like
So it's a celebration as well, right?
Sure. And it's a nostalgic look and it'll remind people of like those good old days. So the movie has, it's got what happened then and then 25 years passes and what's happening now. So that's the part that's going to hopefully resonate with the audience.
Was there kind of a therapeutic release for both of you guys doing this film? Because I mean, you guys, there's probably a time late at night where you guys both sat down like, "Fuck, what are we doing, man?"
Yes, many
What's
times.
going on right now?
Yeah, we're waking up in the middle of the night right now. We don't have to say that.
It's like the movie's going to screen in Toronto next week.
Yeah.
And we're sold out on the first night. The second night, there's like 10 tickets left. That's going to be sold out. And people are going to see this.
This
Like
speaks volumes.
we showed it at CineQuest, and it was
Strangers were watching.
and it was amazing. It was so cool.
Yeah, it was like people that know us, that grew up with
it
us.
was so well received, and we
see
did our
this.
Q&As, and we had like it was just so incredible.
So the hype for the movie, there's obviously hype on
There's
it.
big
There's
hype.
hype because of
Is it-
what it was in Toronto.
Sluggers.
That's what I was gonna say. Did you guys? Was there a lot of marketing done for it?
I
Or
mean,
was it word of mouth, Facebook?
Facebook,
Do you know what I
really?
mean?
Organic for sure in Toronto. We've had to do some work in the States to like get the word out there. But the one of the guys in the movie is like the guy that invented and created the Ken Griffey Jr. rookie card. I've become really close friends with him. He's been joining me on like the PR train in the States. And
That's pretty
been
awesome.
a great hook
Yeah.
to get people to talk to us because we've got the guy that can tell you about the Griffey Jr. rookie and how it was created.
And Griffey just went to the Hall of Fame, so he's relevant.
Oh, just tag along for all.
Yeah, and try to get, there's a lot of like feel good kind of characters that appear in the movie that once people start seeing it, I think there'll be like a more of a buzz. But the Toronto thing has been overwhelming.
Yeah.
We expected to sell tickets, but it sold out in 3 days, and people are hitting me up like, "Can you get me into the Thursday show?" I'm like, "No."
Where were you going to watch it from outside?
Yeah, it's sold out. So
you know what would be awesome? As soon as the weather gets good enough, do a drive-in.
That'd be fun.
I've never been to a
Do a
drive-in.
drive-in.
Never
Never
been
done?
I'm dying to go to a drive-in.
That's the total like 80s and 90s thing.
Yeah.
It's a drive-in.
I love that idea.
For our generation.
Yeah,
He's our age, almost.
That's what I
He just
mean,
looks
like-
like he's 12.
He doesn't look 12.
that was helpful when I was a child actor.
Yeah.
By the way,
Like,
I always
imagine.
looked younger. So
You
when I was
always
like
got the
11,
jobs.
I would play like 8.
Yeah, when you were 18.
Actually, one of the last acting roles
Misha
in a
Barton.
movie I was in, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I played a high school senior, and I'm in my 30s. And Misha Barton played my teacher, and she was 24.
Damn.
That's how young I look.
Damn.
How crazy was she?
I still think
Wow.
something happened, but he doesn't want to
She's
say
cool.
that.
What happened with you, Misha?
She's pretty awesome.
Nothing
She's a
happened.
baby.
You just blinked.
She is stunning.
Nothing
I
You
know.
just blinked again.
She's cool. We hung out. That's
She's
all.
not. She
Huh?
is still beautiful, but apparently they hung out a lot. But she's
That's what I'm saying. How crazy is she?
She's all right.
Apparently she went a bit loopy. You know what? This is just TMZ shit.
She's
So
she's
you
cool.
had a good time.
Yeah.
You
I
did
had a
fall
played
in
her.
love.
He played
No.
her student.
She was my
And you were
He was like 10
So it's not like
you were
So
it's
just
not
like-
like
student-teacher
yeah,
relationship.
it's not
10
one of
years
those.
older.
Yeah,
She got
that
away
didn't
with it.
happen.
You're 10 years older, yet you're playing someone,
Someone's teacher, but that's
Younger.
kind of reflective of my whole acting career as a child. Like
or
that's
it's
what-
your diversity.
or my diversity.
Yeah.
But I was usually like 2 or 3 years older than most of my castmates on like all of those shows because
So what, you just shave your right off? Babyface you?
of this. Yeah, I actually
And a lot of Botox.
that's the only time I've shaved since I was like 19 was for that movie. They
Yeah.
made me shave. I had to shave
You're like
up.
me, like a little bit always.
I had to shave up. I had to shave. They put like they really did some makeup. By
Put
5
some
o'clock, I was
foundation.
like had to like shave again.
You're like
But-
the sun that can't
Yeah.
like, shoot past this time.
No, it was a really cool movie, so I'm happy that it worked out. But it's just funny that I was playing a high school student in my 30s.
What movie was that?
It was called Resurrection. It was with Michael. What the hell's his name?
He's IMDb.
Michael Clark Duncan. Rest
Okay.
in peace.
Mhm.
He was in it. He played the principal. It's like a horror movie that takes place in a prep school, and it had Misha Barton and Devin Sawa, my old buddy.
Yeah.
He played the cop.
So you're the student.
I'm the student. He's the
Yeah.
cop.
Your old buddy is the cop.
Yeah. So we had a
They've
great.
done a bunch
And
of
the girl you got
movies
the
together.
crush on is playing your teacher.
Yeah. So it was a really fun
There you
experience
go.
for me.
No denial.
But
I think she had a crush on him.
no,
Really?
Oh, good. I
I don't
can't
know,
blame
Crushing
him.
harder.
He's a good looking man. Especially when you're 18.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not true. I can tell you one funny thing though. Like she drank wine. So she was like very sophisticated. You know, she drinks wine and listens to.
There's a little secret. A lot of women like wine.
Okay, but she's like 24, so she's like drinking wine. She's already like wise beyond her years. One type of girl. You know, she's like has like exquisite taste. You know, she's one of those. So you know, sure. I'm just saying, like me and her are different people in that sense.
Oh, totally.
So she would be like, you know, like she'd be like, "What's your favorite film of all time?" And I'd be like, "Home Alone." She'd be like, amazing. "I like," and so list some 1940s
art movie.
And I'm like, "Who's your favorite artist?" And I'm like, "Prince." She's like, "I like Moliere." So it was like, I'm not doing that's not a real impression of her, but that's not how she talks. But she's very high cultured woman who.
Or she's really a 24-year-old woman.
No, she knew her shit. She definitely was wise beyond her years, and she was a child actor too. So she grew up with all adults. So
she was a bit highfalutin.
She was definitely out of my league as far as conversations about, like, we have two different pop cultures.
This is kind of true. She's talking about fine art and you're talking about baseball.
I think Home Alone is a great movie, by the way. And I still maintain that it's a great movie. But, you know, she didn't laugh when I said that.
You gotta watch it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's on TV.
But she's definitely cool. She was very nice, very cool, easy to hang out with. And as are most, I don't have very many stories of working with, like, quote unquote celebrities that weren't pleasant.
Swayze was your friend.
You know,
pretty easy to get along with, right? So I think when you put people at ease and you're not coming at them with weird angles.
Right.
And because Canadian too. I think it's
true.
Proctor.
Well, I think
people from LA love Canadians.
Could be.
Because there's nothing, that we want from them.
So when during this whole time period, you're being rich and famous, and your sister just happens to be in the LA area, did you get any superstar shrapnel?
Huh?
Do you have any rock star high actor stories?
No, because, yes, I was around them all, but I didn't date them all. Yes, I was like, my first night in LA, I was at a dinner party with Hugh Grant and Michael Bolton at the time was considered Nicolette Sheridan. They were dating, and Tony, what's his name? I'm married to Melanie Griffiths, and I called Stuart because, of course, I'd never
Antonio Banderas.
Okay. And the manager of the Oakland A's, Tony La Russa, who I was most starstruck by because I was a baseball fan. Exactly. Talking about Fonseca, like this guy was like, "Who is this girl?" Like trying to steal me away from my date. And I go into Billy Zane, that's whose house we're at, the back of the Titanic. And I called Stuart from the bedroom. It's like my second night living in LA. I live with Stuart.
Okay.
And Devin. And there was crazy stories.
There's a third roommate too. Here's a crazy thing. A third roommate, his name is Phil Glazer. He was the voice of Fievel in the American Tail movies.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, sorry.
No worries.
I just wanted to let you know
him from the
how
bedroom
serious
of the
this was.
And I said, I'm having a really good time. I tell him who's there. He's the most excited about Tony La Russa too. And I'm like,
yeah, for sure.
I'm like, I think you better come get me soon. I don't know what's going to go on here. Because I was like, a nice Jewish girl.
She was like 20 years old, 21.
You didn't have wine.
You're like, I'm 20, I might get drunk and do something.
Very good.
And I was afraid. But it was really, that was like my first, foray into LA. That was like,
so you got throw it in right away.
Right away. And his life was crazy then. Like he was a star. His roommate was a big star. And the guy I was hanging out with also was a producer. And I dressed, my job in fashion was like dressing celebrities, like ER, Party of Five, 90210. But his lifestyle, like, it was insane.
Yeah, but we were under 21, so we had parties. And so like all the young people who were under 21 who were our age, like they couldn't go out either.
Yeah.
So
they came to your house.
They came to our house. We didn't have parents.
Yeah.
All these other kids had parents living with them.
Yeah, I understand. Chaperones,
we had a townhouse in Encino after we got kicked out of the Oakwoods. That's where Karie lived with us. But we were living in a complex where like our next door neighbors was like a family and another family.
Yeah.
We were like 18-year-olds like in this
with
nice
too much
place,
money at the time.
just like throwing parties every night with like no care in the world.
And like celebrities there every night.
It was a lot of fun. And then a great era in Hollywood, like right before social media. All that era where, you used to hear Jay-Z rapping Bubbling in Dublin's and all that. Like we went to Dublin's every Monday. And I would have a drink with Evander Holyfield, like crazy. It was just random, crazy stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
so it's pretty crazy.
That's a good life.
A lot of stuff has happened. Clearly, you burned all of it.
Well.
So you guys are here now, and you seem more excited talking about your movie than you do talking about your stories of the past.
I think that this movie, like I said, I've been like living with it now for so intensely for the last couple of years. That I just want to get it done. Like I just want it out so we can just like get it out there. It's like
he's taken on the most. I mean, emotionally, I still was in Toronto after the disappearance,
yes,
the breakdown of the family. So that's when I dealt with it. And of course, I was the big sister that cared for him and my younger sister. But Stuart had his own money and his own career, basically at a young age.
Life going on, right?
So he kind of was away from it all these years. So in terms of your question about the therapeutic process, I think there's never really a clear feeling for me on how this ends. But for Stuart, I think there are some things that maybe in a few months from now or a few weeks from now, once we've shown it, and I don't think he's worried about how it's going to be received. It's just about he's never really talked about it. I've talked about it. I'm an open person. He's never talked about it all these years, and that's really the truth. And I think that...
So you kind of earned it.
Well, the other thing is that, just focusing on, that door knock moment from the trailer, whatever's on the other side of that door, not only did I have to film that, but then you're editing a movie, you have to, it's relive
it.
It's not like I just showed up, did it, and that was it. Whatever happens after that, it's I have to relive it over and over and over and over again in every cut. And then there's notes.
I think it's been hard.
Whatever happened on the end of that door took 2 hours of
at least 2 hours. From my experience in editing.
And in the movie, I'm saying to film what happened on the other was a 2-hour ordeal that took place on the other side of that.
Okay.
Which shows up in the movie for a very short period of time compared to what it was in real life.
And then he has to relive
taking
it.
that down from 2 hours to fitting in this movie, because it's still a movie that needs to have, it can't be 7 hours long, so it's what goes, what stays. And now I'm sort of in control of the fate of how do I want this story to be seen? Do I want that out there? No. Do I want that out there? I guess. And then I had
who had the final say?
Well, it was a collaborative thing, but I think, for that one section of the film was the one section that Harv was really easy to work with because...
Was Harv your best friend growing up?
Well, he's one of them for sure.
Okay.
He was our neighbor across the street.
That's what I mean.
So and he was close to the family.
Kind of what I'm getting at is that
he was an older brother.
Pushed you to go in this direction because he saw it.
Sure.
He was kind of the inside, but the outer inside, right?
Yes.
And he's probably thinking about it as well.
So at the same time, is it not? Can you think of a better person to have that?
No, it worked out really well. I think
because he's got your best interest ultimately at the end.
I mean, listen, it's easy to say that now, but when you're swimming in the water and you feel like Harv's tackling you in the water.
No, I'm just saying.
I'm not
saying. All I'm saying is hindsight is what it is.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I am very, very happy that Harv was involved in this.
Me too.
And I think that he brings a whole other. He convinced me to do a lot of things that I wouldn't have done, and it makes the movie a better film. Oh. And so I think that it wouldn't be the same movie if Harv didn't do it. It would have been a complete. I could have been too much of a pussy to do what he wanted me to do.
I think that's why he was an appropriate choice. Because he's like an older brother that can bully him to a certain point, and you'll see that on
film. At the same time,
no, in 11, how I can bully you, in 11.
He just has a strong opinion. His name is on the marquee too, so it's
how about
co-directors.
How about this? Yeah. He actually turned into quite a director then. So he made talent.
Don't tell him that.
No, we're disclosing.
He knows it already.
Yeah. No, Harv is a very talented guy in the sense that he's very. It was difficult for me to work with him specifically on this project because I lived this and it was my life, and it's easy for him to say. That was always my answer and my thought whenever he would push me. I'm easy for you to say. You're not the one that's doing it. Yeah. That was kind of what we were pushing each other on. But I will give Harv all the credit in the world as far as the aesthetic. The look and the feel and the aesthetic. He's always been cool in that sense. Mm-hmm. He knows what's cool.
And ahead of his time.
Even when we were kids, he was the kid that was skateboarding before everybody. He's just a cool dude. Yeah. And, all the other movies that he's done have a really cool look and feel to them. And I think that the movie looks really cool because Harv brought that cool factor as far as that goes for sure. And the poster of the film that was Harv's brainchild.
Amazing.
And it's a pack of 87 tops with our logo. It's so cool.
He's an artist too.
He's a true artist in that sense. It's not always easy to work with people who are really great artists because they're always right in their world. Mm-hmm. And so as much as I'm not used to being told what to do when I'm directing something, either is Harv. So, and I think it made it crazier because we were so close and because we're friends. Because if we were strangers, I would just be fuck off. And
you probably would have got made.
Yeah.
Probably you would have walked away.
And so you can't just walk away because, and Harv and I were actually having this discussion the other day, because we did get into it during this process and we came out of it and we're cool, obviously. I love the guy, obviously. But we were having this conversation about no matter what happens, no matter how much I love you or hate you, Like, you're not going anywhere. You like grew up across the street from me.
Yeah.
Like, you're not, it's like, you're family now. And it's just like, it is what it is. And at the end of the day, we know that that's sort of a safety net that you know you can cross boundaries when you're arguing and yelling with each other. Because, you know, like, no matter what I say to Harv or whatever he says to me, we're still going to find a common ground at the end of the day, because there's like, you know, too much.
You're like brothers.
Yeah.
It's just how it goes.
I think the biggest thing for me about having Harv, as I said, not just because he knows the family, we all had our one-on-one interviews with him. Like, unfortunately, most of it doesn't make the film, but he was really, really good, I found, when he did our one-on-ones.
Whereas I thought it was like inappropriate what he was asking during the one-on-ones. So there's a difference of, you know, Harv was really digging. So I'm making a baseball card doc. Harv is making a family doc. The two kind of have sex and the baby comes out, and that's the movie that you're going to see when you come. So it's like really cool, and we expose the behind the scenes in the film, so you'll get to see that kind of struggle
it's real,
as well.
It's great.
I'm excited for this.
So what's the social media? We'll wrap it up. What's the social media?
Real quick though, I just want to say that a family film like this, and it's definitely not a family film as far as the subject matter and the language, but a family. It's a family film in this truest sense of the word, as far as like all the moving parts that put it together. Adam Rodness, the producer, that's my brother-in-law. He's married to my sister. He knows the situation with my family, obviously. He's not a stranger to it either.
Yeah.
He produced the film.
And that's your younger sister,
That's my younger sister, Dina. He's married to her. That's her brother-in-law. He's my partner.
You look like Dina.
So he knows what's going on. He knows all the cast of characters. He knows. And he knows Harv, obviously. He knows Karie. He knows me. He knows the stories of my dad, all of that. So it was like, he's involved. Karie co-produced the film. That's my sister. She lived it. She's on camera. She went through the whole thing.
She had your back.
Harv, who practically is my older brother, I've known him since I was 2 years old or whatever it was. He's lived across the street from me. We've been working and friends our whole lives. He's a family, you know, so the four of us kind of, and then also all the interviews and the investigative family side of it.
Yeah.
You know, we dusted off cousins, relatives, all sorts of people that we haven't run into.
Did you give any autographs to any of them?
Well.
Yeah, he did, didn't he?
But it is funny.
At CineQuest a few weeks ago, he did. Even I signed
No, he's talking about with the family.
I know what he's talking about.
But it's funny though. It's funny you say that, because like I'm the guy in the family, and this is just funny because like I'm sure there's guys like me in every family, but like whenever there's like the wedding or the bar mitzvah or the funeral or the function, and you have to like hang out with like cousins and stuff that you haven't spoken to in a long time, like I'm always the guy that like I can't just hide in the corner. Like they're like, hey, there he is, Mr. LA, Mr. Hollywood. How's it going? Are you still doing the acting thing? Like,
oh, really?
I gotta like answer that line of
questioning.
questioning.
Can you sing at my son's bar mitzvah? Will you do a rap? Will you do one of those raps?
My son is my son is a this, or my daughter's that, or my cousin's this. Oh, you live in LA? Do you know my friend's son? Yeah. He lives in LA. Maybe you know him. Can you take a look? But that happens at all these family functions.
Yeah.
So
can I send you
this iPhone thing?
Right. So now all of those people who only know whatever I choose to tell them when we have conversations at these simchas, as we say in the Jewish community, they're going to get to see all the dirty laundry that they never knew about when they watched this movie. So that's the anxiety thing.
Yeah, we're shocked. And also the people that we grew up with. I see a line, I think it comes up in the trailer, something like, we looked like we had everything. Because we, you know, child stars and the best, coolest family business.
People don't know that we went through.
Nobody knew that.
We like never really we held our family, right? We slow played our aces. You know, we were really strong. We put up a nice tough front of that, like everything.
And we were like, we had friends. We were popular. We were on the teams at school. Like you would never think
something was going on.
Crazy shit was happening.
Yeah, man. So is life. Right? Yeah. So what's the links? What's the handles? Where do we find this movie once it's been in the theaters?
Yeah.
Are you going to Netflix?
Hopefully that's the goal. But our starting now is the first window of broadcast in Canada will be on Super Channel, as I said.
Right.
Eventually it'll hopefully land up on like a Netflix or Amazon, but that's naturally the home and where I want to see it.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah, and it's just a matter of getting some buzz so that we're already on their radar, but everybody's on Netflix radar. You know, it's like Netflix.
They need 5 years of Canadian money.
Well, it's not exactly the way you read the articles. But
Canadian content.
I will say this: that
this is it.
5 years ago or 10 years ago, Netflix was begging people to come and put their shit on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now they're the king and everybody's begging them. So it's like the competition is way harder now that you could have the best movie and it might not end up there. Who knows? So I think that these Toronto screenings are very important in the acceleration of this film's, visibility, let's just say.
Yeah.
That I think that people watch it and there could be a social media buzz, and coming on podcasts like your guys and creating a buzz, owning our city in this super kind of rock and roll way. We got to treat it like this is an album.
Yeah.
And your band, in order to get a record deal nowadays, you got to own your hometown. Yeah. So that's what we're trying to do with this movie. And the response has been overwhelming. As I said, we're sold out.
People want to say, is there going to be more? Is there going to be more? So we have to see.
First question Chad said, are you guys going to do a part 2?
Maybe. I have some...
Or was it, sorry, were you guys going to do a sequel?
I can tell you something really crazy. So just from a filmmaking standpoint, and I've been driving everybody on our team crazy about this, by the way. Harv will, he hangs up on me if I even bring this up.
I know where you're going
but the movie had... The original cut of the film was 20 minutes longer. And we had to cut for time. Yeah. So there's a whole baseball card other thing that was in the original cut that we had to make we had to make a decision to make the time for the broadcast. Do we lose 20 minutes of family story or 20 minutes of baseball card story?
Where's the balance?
And one of them's got to go. And I was fighting for the baseball card story, obviously. But then once I saw the other family aspect and saw that even people we were showing stuff to were crying, it was okay, this family stuff wins. And so I have a whole other piece of business that isn't in the film that I'm thinking of making a second piece of content with.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And also keep in mind, I met Jose Canseco. I interviewed Jose Canseco. I was at his place for 3 hours. He's in the movie for 10 minutes. So I could do a whole different interview with Canseco, with all new things, because I asked him about everything.
Was that pretty rad?
Oh, the best.
Were you there for that as well?
She wanted to go so badly.
I got the autograph, but I'd met him in Toronto before. I read his book the day it came out. I was a fan of his. Yeah,
it was really surreal to be sitting with Jose.
Yeah, he was the man.
He's a great guy, too.
He's a cool dude also.
6'4" or something?
Yeah, he's 6'4", 6'5". He's 230, 40 pounds. He's still a fucking beast.
He's still ripped, too.
He could still hit the ball 500 feet if he wanted to.
He's probably still juicing.
But I think...
no, admittedly.
Or TOT, whatever.
I think the thing about Canseco that was really cool was that when we first knocked on his door and met him, he was a little bit here we go. I got to deal with these fucking guys. Mm. And by the time we started talking...
We were making plans.
We were what are you doing after this? We became... Yeah, he ended up loving us, and, we got along great. And I think he loved talking about baseball cards. This was not something that people talk to him about all the time. Yeah. And it wasn't, and I did slip in let's talk about steroids. For sure I did that. I'm not a complete idiot. I for sure wanted to ask him.
I was Madonna.
Yeah, I definitely
really,
asked
how
him.
was she?
Stickman.
He's a stickman.
But, it wasn't the typical Jose Canseco conversation that he's probably used to having when he's being interviewed. Talking about his 86 Don Ross rookie card was a lot of fun, and we had laughs. So it was really cool having Canseco in the movie. And we also interviewed some other ball players that unfortunately didn't make the cut. And that's the crazy part about this movie. We interviewed Will Clark, who's one of the greatest hitters of that generation.
Do you remember him?
San Francisco Giants, Will Clark, played for the Giants, first baseman. Your listeners, some of them would know who he is. You got to make, even Will Clark's got to go. So it's that's the type of movie this is where I would have fought for that.
You're making hard decisions.
Really tough decisions. Yeah. And then it's here. Now we're at the doorstep of releasing it, at least here in Toronto. And we're going to be at the Calgary Film Festival in April 19th. April 19th. We're screening there the day before 420. Come visit. And then...
is this Hot Dogs?
You guys doing Toronto here? Hot Dogs, we couldn't, since we got the deal with Super Channel, we couldn't get Hot Dogs. Right. But we wanted to.
We didn't know. We didn't know.
I don't think it matters.
When we were making this film, we were just we got money to make it. It's not a lot of money. No. Super Channel's going to...
Hot Dogs is a great festival. But at the end of the day, they wouldn't have given us 2 screenings. Now we can do whatever we want. We control our destiny. If we sell out the second screening, we can add a third screening.
Business is business, right?
Yeah, it's we don't need... As much as it would have been cool for them to drive an audience, clearly there's an audience thirsty for this in the city.
You're past it.
Yeah. And I hope if I do other documentaries that I can showcase at a festival like Hot Docs. But we got lucky. This is, people are really digging this trailer. The trailer is also hard.
Yeah, it's
and,
sounds like you guys have a good formula working together.
I mean, I don't know.
Believe it or not, for us, there was only one fight. Yeah. Which is captured in the film.
Oh, no way. Perfect.
And
who, me and you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
we used to fight when we were kids.
I was gonna say, I have
when we
two
were kids.
brothers. So.
Yeah, when we were kids, I used to kill him, and then I taught him some bad habits, and he became cool.
Smoke this.
No, yeah,
Drink this.
and he got in you grow up. You like girls and
Girls, you like girls, right?
Yes.
What? You got one here?
Oh my God!
That's
not what
so
I meant.
crazy.
Yeah,
even though he was really little,
he's a player.
I came downstairs one day. He wasn't necessarily a player.
Did you feel safe leaving him alone with your friends?
Yes, because he was too little back then for my friends.
Because I was too.
Not when I was older.
Later on.
Not later on. Later on.
Here I am. You can't speak with a smile that big.
No, listen, Karie's friends were very cool, obviously.
Of course. That was
but even when he was little, he's still I would come home and there'd be there still was a girl there. And I'm like, I don't even know if Stuart has gone through puberty yet. And there's
he's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Talking about that? I guess we can talk about everything now, can't we? How was puberty?
Oh man, we were fucking.
All kidding aside, as someone who's watched him as an older sister / protector / almost mother at times, it's been painful, but it's also been incredible. And he should get the most credit. No offense, Harv and Adam and me, because he lived this. And
no, but it's a team effort.
No, yes, but he is superbly talented, and
she's my biggest supporter.
But it's true.
She should be.
I'm not lying. And
I'm
the
saying
movie,
she should be.
He's superbly talented. The movie is raw and fun, and you'll laugh and you'll cry. And I think that you will not feel like you wasted your time if you come see it.
And also, I think everybody, in order for it to turn out the way that it did, everybody had to go above and beyond on their A game. Rodness had to be on his A game. He's lined up the deal. You know what I mean? So he had to fill out all the paperwork and
and there's a lot of paperwork.
So much. He had to navigate that.
Yeah, we're not paperwork people.
The whole production of the film, though, is a very complex and complicated thing.
He did an amazing job.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
And then Harv, obviously, as we were getting to the finish line, he brought his A game too. So everybody brought their A game. And I think the end result is I'm not nervous about the response of the film because I stand behind the quality of the film and I'm proud of it. And I know that people will like it.
You did the best you can?
Yeah, I think it's better than the best I can.
Well, there you go.
And I'm not at all worried about people, will they like it? It's the nerves are more about it's like people that you know.
Content,
it's harder for me to get up and do stand-up comedy in front of a room of people that know me than in front of strangers.
Well, one thing I can say about this, what you're going through, and we've talked about this with many of our guests that are in the field, whatever they're doing respectively, is that people appreciate a true story.
The honesty.
And the honesty, and they'll continue to follow you. And what you're going to find is people asking for your opinion on life itself. Hey, man, my dad wasn't there either, man. What do you think about this?
Right.
That kind of stuff. It's going to stem from a lot of things.
That's what happened at CineQuest. People started telling us their stories.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and everybody's got one, I'm sure.
Everybody's got
also,
one.
since then, I've become the baseball card guy again. I do love
loves it.
But I went to a St. Patrick's Day party with my sister last Saturday.
Other sister.
And I show up at this party, and the guy who's throwing the party, he's dressed in I'm green, he's wasted. He's St. Patrick's Day, right? Mm. And he's like, Stu, oh my God, can you just come with me in my basement real quick? And I'm like, shh, for what? He's like, please. And I'm like, all right. I go down to his basement. He's like, just hold on a second. And he pulls out a box. These are my cards. Can you tell me if anything's good in here? I've become that guy, which I'm cool with because I ended up getting a Rocket Ishmael rookie card.
Oh, no way.
He gave it to me for free.
Oh, no way.
Not that it's worth more than free, but
it's awesome.
Yeah, I love it. It was the pro set Rocket Ishmael rookie, which I love. But I still love the cards. So people who run into me, if you do run into me and you want to talk cards, don't be shy. I do love it. I will talk to you about it. And the social medias for the film.
Oh, he's done an incredible job on that.
Jack of all trades.
So fun.
Jack of all trades doc is on Instagram. And then baseball card doc is the Twitter. And then Facebook, Jack of all trades, the movie. That's the Instagram is my favorite.
Yeah. Just because you see all the fun faces.
I've been posting pictures of old school baseball cards every day.
Makes you smile.
And give us a follow. And I'm Stu Stone wherever social media or swipe apps are. You can find me on all of that. So you can find me on all that. Stu Stone. Age is different depending on which site you're on. But I'm there. And STUSTONE and support the film. And Harv His is Harv 666, fitting for him.
Sounds appropriate.
Yeah.
Adam is at Adam Rodness, and Karie is KS Retro Sports.
_retro
KS_Retro Sports. So that's all of our social medias if you want to connect with us. But
Can we do this again?
I would love to.
Guys,
we don't
this
even
is
Can we get a
talk
feedback?
about-
Can we get a
I
feedback?
think it'd be
I got
good
a
to come
feedback
back
follow.
done
This
your
is
loop.
amazing.
Yeah.
I love this. This is so
And we'll
cool.
just make sure we have all the.
Well, by then you will have seen the film.
No, I wasn't even thinking about that. I was thinking about beverages.
Oh, yeah.
And,
Tequila.
Yeah, Karie wants some tequila.
Absolutely.
Tequila.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and some weed.
I'm sure it's legal now.
Yeah, that's what I was hesitant to say because I don't have children.
Now,
I'm okay with it.
Are you guys excited about July 1st? Or is that a podcast for another time?
We actually talked to Bruce Canopy from
I
Bruce
spoke
Lee.
to him too, yeah.
and he's super intelligent about this.
Dude, they all are.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's where the confidence becomes. Sorry, this is where the confidence. I'm still right now. This is where it's hard not to be confident that things will be taken care of because now it's gone to the level of the super intelligent people are actually handling things.
Right.
And they're going to push
And
the
wisely.
politicians in the right direction or
To get it
at
done
least
properly.
funnel them into a direction that's going to get us a result rather than some bullshit hang up excuse why it can't happen, right?
Right. Well, I'm
Your
excited.
thoughts?
Well, I've been in LA for the last 20 years where it's practically, I've already lived this, where there's like a weed store on every corner. It used to be a sushi store on every corner. Now it's a weed store.
Yeah.
And I think that could have happened here. There was a little bit of a period where that was sort of happening here.
Yeah, but it was so
But they're
sketchy.
changing it, obviously. Now it's like the LCBO or however they're going to do it. And listen, it's not going to change me. I don't think based on just meeting you today that it's going to change you. I don't see us being like $14 a gram customers at the weed shop.
No.
So I think like,
Plus
you know,
tax.
the people who are real into that culture are going to stick with what they know, which is going to Costco. And, you know, and I think that the people who are going to come out of the closet to like try weed and they're going to a wine party or a dinner party or they're dentists or professionals that don't, you know, they just want to buy a joint or a gram for their party.
Hey, honey, let's grab a gram of that hanky.
I think that's,
oh my God.
I think that's where the real money.
Weed shop.
That's where the real money is going to be made for them because that's how they're pricing it. So it's more for people who are, you know, who didn't fuck with weed because it was illegal. Now it's legal. Let's try it. It's fun. It's cute.
Thornhill gangs.
And we're from Thornley, where you know that's what it was.
Not get it twisted though. You guys were doing some shit back then too.
For sure, believe me. But yeah, I'm excited for it just because I never thought I would see a day where a whole country would just be legal like this.
So cool.
So I'm curious to see how that goes. And you know, I think it's a big business, especially if you get into some exporting. You know, the way that we drink wine from Italy.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
People could be smoking weed from Canada, and this could be a huge cash crop
And our
for
weed
the
is awesome.
economy.
You see skunk's been shipped all over the world for
Seems
years.
like Quebec.
But I'm saying now
It's gonna have a
legally,
stamp. Yeah, it's gonna have a stamp.
now you can start doing that. I don't think that you can send it to the States just yet, but they're going to start getting into that. You watch, where they're going to be able to export weed just like oil or any other commodity.
Foods and stuff like that, getting into more gourmet stuff as well too.
Yeah.
It's gonna be interesting. We should sign off, man. We've gone over well over an hour.
What time is it?
It's about that time. It's about that time, man. I want to have you guys back on for sure. For sure. I want to have you guys back on to talk about your 360 approach, and then we can spin off because I know you're doing other stuff as well too that we haven't even talked about.
Yeah.
I know Adam spoke about some things at the gym.
Yeah,
as
we
well
got some cool stuff going on.
which would be interesting.
Yeah, people can go to our website 57films.com if they want to see the other stuff that we're up to. But we're making it happen, and we're very Toronto. Our roots are ingrained here. Our crews are all from Toronto.
Yeah.
We're putting people to work, meeting all kinds of cool people, getting into the community here, and just being supportive of the community that's here. And I love that I'm able to come here and be a part of what's happening in Toronto right now. So it's great to be here, man.
Plus your experience helps give it a little push as well, right?
Hey, I'm excited, man. And I got a lot to learn too, believe me. Like as much as I think I know, there's like these young kids coming up that know fucking
the whole internet thing.
they know what's going on too. So I'm always willing to like, you know, open my eyes to how other people do things too. So
Learn
is
every
great.
day, right?
Yeah.
All right. Well, did you want to say goodbye for your sister?
Sure. My sister, says goodbye. Shout out to her kids and her husband and Auntie Sandy and my mom if they're listening. I hope not. And to anybody who is thinking about coming to see the film, come on down, say hello. And
What's the date again? April
5th and 7th at the Review Cinema in Toronto, you can go to our Facebook page for the link, Jack of All Trades, the movie. And if you want to come down, otherwise, Super Channel, May 15th. And in Calgary, I'll be there on the 19th of April to screen the film there for the Calgary Film Festival. And that's it.
Amazing.
Mazel tov.
All right, sister's going to say goodbye.
Come see our movie on April 5th. So I stepped in. I just want to thank you guys. This is unbelievable.
Yeah, we had a good time.
It was so fun, so easy.
Yeah.
I could stay here all night.
That's the idea, right?
Next time we get some tequila and some weed, we can freak out like that, like for sure.
I can't wait and have a dance party.
Yeah.
Oh, awesome dance parties. We'll DJ.
Awesome.
All right, guys. Nice meeting you.
All right, well, this is
Thank
the City Podcast. This is C. Gardner Cranston sometimes.
This is Steve G. Mealing.
And
I'm stealing your G.
Yeah, man, do it. G for...
Later, bye.
We're out.